Good afternoon, back with Kid Klown for the NES. We'll be starting in 3, 2, 1, go. The premise behind Kid Klown is his family has been kidnapped by the mayor of Night World. And for those who might have played a different variant of this game, this is modeled after Mickey Mouse 3 Yume Futsun for the Famicom, with a few changed enemies and such. Basically, Kid Klown's main attack deals with the balloons that he uses for attacks, and not only to attack his enemies, but to reach higher areas, and as well as being able to float. Stage 1 is your introduction stage to it, and just like with any particular circus type game, you're treated to a mini game after each stage to obtain extra lives and/or health. The chips that you gain, which look like strawberries, are obtained for chances to... The more chips you get, the more chances you have to obtain health and such. Now there are treasure chests that you'll see scattered through the stages. Not all of the treasure chests are completely random, but there are certain ones that you want to steer clear of. The lightning gives you temporary invincibility. Kid Klown's run speed is much faster as long as he's not holding the balloon. There is definitely some enemy RNG, but fortunately it's not too bad. But the absolute worst thing that can happen in the game is if you take a hit, if you get hit out alongside when any boss enemy takes the final hit as well, as it will soft lock the game. During the mini game that happens between stages, which you can use to recover health or obtain extra lives. You want any hearts will boost the amount of health that you have. Food will as well, but having the hearts are better. As you can see, my timing is not the greatest. I really wanted to have at least 4 hearts going in. Oh well. I'll attempt it after stage 2. I definitely want 4 hearts then, anytime after stage 2. In this stage, you want to be wary of anything. Enemies will appear out of presents. even the jigsaw puzzles that you see at the top of the screen fall. As you can see, there are items everywhere. So even if it doesn't actually appear on screen, you'll still uncover maybe a treasure chest, health, or something else. With the treasure chest that you see, the question marks can be anything. Invincibility, chips, health. But you'll also see those. You'll also see those outside of treasure, sometimes outside of treasure chests as well, that are not question boxes. Some of the question mark boxes are safe, as they will always be a particular item, but others are random. But if you hear this very odd music occur, then that means if you hear this very odd music occur once you get a question mark, that means your controls have been reversed for walking. Narcolepsy warning to anyone, as the screen will blink. I wonder if the Nightmare asked Dr. Wily for this particular enemy, boss-wise. And hopefully I'll have better luck obtaining 4 hearts. Sometimes you have, especially for faster moving items in the between stages, you have to fire a balloon very early. For stage 3 is spent in a vertical climb, dealing with various grasshoppers, some angry and sad clowns. Some angry and sad clouds. You have access to 3 particular paths you can take door-wise. If you take one particular path, you'll end up closer to, you'll skip at least one particular room near the end of that you don't have to deal with normally. There's also those leaves that if you stand on them, some of them will just go away immediately, but fortunately you can use a balloon to boost yourself up there. If you take that particular room to the upper left, you'll come immediately to fighting what looks like a iguana. And Mickey Mouse 3 Fusion for the Fusion for the Famicom. I believe it's a Cheshire Cat. Now in the last section before the boss, which you'll still definitely want to have health for. Now depending on how you decide to approach this area, if you're fast enough, you can actually reach between the question marks and the lightning that you see. You can actually you can actually obtain plenty of invincibility. You can actually obtain plenty of invincibility and not have to deal with any threats from enemies for the stage in general. For this boss, just fire the balloon at an angle, but be wary of the club that the boss uses to try to smash you with, as well as the rolling item and the pillars. One of the few reasons why I would definitely recommend having health. And I definitely want to refill health before stage 4. The clown heads you see are extra lives. They're not needed too much, honestly. Maybe if you're playing hard mode. Oh, and yes, there is a code that you can enter at the title screen which will incorporate hard mode. Kind of like Kirby's Dream Land, the enemies take more hits and the enemies are much faster. That's unfortunate. I really wanted more help for the stage. Especially for a section that will show up very shortly. You'll be reminded of Mega Man 2 quick beams, only except they're not one-hit kills, but they will take a heart each. Fortunately, the game decides to be generous and give you at least an extra heart worth of health here. But now you have to deal with some spikes. Fortunately, those aren't one-hit kills either. Now, if this section is done correctly, you don't have to slow down for many of the platforms. And just skip the majority of the water. There's a small secret area in this section, which has no enemies. You could either take that or continue going to the right. You'll wind up in this section where you start off with invulnerability. Just keep running and don't stop. Grab that particular treasure chest for an extra invulnerability. In this section, thank goodness we don't have any more ice to deal with, but now it's just all snow. If you're holding a balloon while you land, you won't actually fall into the snow and see Kid Klown trapped. But fortunately, even if you are trapped, it doesn't last long. The fourth boss is definitely a bit dangerous just because you have to worry about the boss using balloons when you hit it. Ooh. Okay, that particular death doesn't send me too far back. I'd actually rather a loss of life than a complete soft rock. Because, from stated earlier, if you take a hit is when the boss loses their last bit of health as well, then unfortunately the game will soft lock. And being at 1 health doesn't help. This boss just takes a balloon and fires it back at you. But fortunately, as long as you have health, it's not too bad. Just try not to fire at it if it's facing you, as the threat of its attack is much bigger. Okay, at least for once that particular intermission between the stages actually gave me health. Now basically as a staple of a Mickey Mouse game, what Mickey Mouse game doesn't have some sort of food related stage? And also the giant letters as well. The cake platforms are okay, but the Jello platforms you can't jump high on at all. And while the items that the squirrels use don't hurt you, if you're on them long enough, you will roll into a pit. Now to just deal with this section with the small cookies that crumble, platform-wise. Now you have to get rid of this gumball machine just to utilize the track mill platform, just to get past that one. Just to get past that one pit. There might be a way to get past that pit without using it, but I haven't found a way yet. Now in this last section before the boss, grab the invulnerability and just run. Seem to be having a slight wire display problem on my end. Fortunately, the caterpillar, just like the majority of the other bosses, are okay. The worst parts I have to deal with is wherever the tail winds up, but as long as the tail isn't too far over, you'll almost never have to worry about it at all. Okay. Kid Klown thinks he sees his family to be able to rescue him, but it ends up turning out to be a mirage by Nightmare. Now the main difference between this and Mickey Mouse 3, if you use this particular shortcut in Kid Klown, it takes you past the majority of the stage. In Mickey Mouse 3, you have to do the entire castle. This particular room, for some reason, requires you to see it twice before you can go into before you can reach the final boss. All the doors that you see lead either elsewhere in the castle, or they lead to a boss from an earlier encounter in the game. So you want to pick this particular door that takes you to the final boss? Well, first you have to deal with Nightmare's pterodactyl. Personally, I wouldn't mind having a pterodactyl for a bodyguard. Would you? You can either just jump to avoid the fire or duck between the gaps. Once you get rid of the pterodactyl, Nightmare shows up, who has 3 phases. Every time I see this boss, it always reminds me of the antagonist from Wacky Racers. Those who've seen the show or played the game know who I'm talking about. There's not much to deal with. You just hit the head for all 3 sections. In the third phase, the head will fly or fly around using the same orbs that it's using now for this phase. Only except they'll explode upon contact from a balloon. It's unfortunate that you can only have 2 balloons on screen at one time. But other than that, time ends when on final hit, which will come up very shortly. And that's it. That's Kid Klown for the NES. And then the entire basic reason Nightmare wanted Kid Klown to help him was because of a treasure hidden far off, which only contained clown noses. But other than that, thank you everyone for watching this segment of the RGL for SGL marathon. Everybody stay tuned for even more games, and everybody enjoy the rest of the marathon and have a nice weekend.